There we go. Howdy, howdy. Let's get Facebook in here and we can start the show, get rocking and rolling. Winning, spinning wheels, Facebook. There, boom and boom. Alrighty. Welcome in. It is Friday morning, 12/12/25, 6:36 Mountain Time. I am Nick Kendall, joined by Eric Trickle. This is Broncos for Breakfast, your favorite morning show for any team, any show at all, but specifically for Denver Broncos. Eric, good to see you this morning. I'm feeling pretty good. I've been up since 5:30. I've already had a cup of coffee, so I'm feeling loose. I'm feeling limber. I'm really excited for the game this week. It feels like the Broncos, I don't know. It feels like they've been on a bye week for like 3 weeks now to some extent. And I know that sounds so, I should be more grateful for, games that they're winning and playing it all. But like the Commanders game, it was exciting, but like not a lot of juice with that Commanders team. That Raiders game was, it was 24-7 with 4 minutes left, right? And they just choked the life out of them. Oh, buddy, I am so excited for this Packers game. I'm nervous as well because this is probably the best team they faced this season on the whole, like top to bottom. There's a reason Denver historically, first team ever, 11-game win streak at home, 10-game winning streak at all, home dogs. But man, it should be a good game. This is what you watch the team for. This is what you play for, right? All that good stuff. Like these kind of matchups, I wish it wasn't $400 to get into the stadiums. Otherwise, I'd be there. But it's going to be a great game against a top 3 Vegas line, Super Bowl line team in the NFL and the Green Bay Packers. Good to see you. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning to you as well. It's definitely it's another big game of the season. It's one of those games where, it's we've heard it multiple times this season already. This is a game where the Broncos can prove themselves. This is yet another one of those because despite beating the Eagles, despite beating the Chiefs, the games where a lot of analysts were like, well, the Broncos can prove they're not a fraud that they pull off this win, and they go and beat the Eagles, and then they beat the Chiefs, and people are still going off, well, the Broncos are frauds. Well, this is another game where they can, shed that label that they have. It's definitely a tough one. The teams are pretty evenly matched when it comes to where the strengths are against the strengths of the opponent, and then where the weaknesses are is also a weakness of the opponent for the most part. And one thing I would say that the Broncos do have going for them is the recent trends. The Broncos offense has been trending up since that mini bye week after the first Raiders game, whereas since in that same time frame, the Packers defense has been trending down. The concerning part of this is that the Broncos defense has been trending down, and they have a really bad trend in December ever since Sean Payton came in. They're allowing like almost 80 points in the month of December compared to the rest of the season since Sean Payton's taken over, as well as like almost 100 more yards. And the Packers offense has been trending up. So I kind of had a view that this might be a defensive game, but I could see this end up being a shootout kind of game too, just based off of the recent trends of both these teams.
Oh, buddy, my downstairs is puckering thinking about Riley Moss down the field in this one. I'm glad you didn't spit your water out. Yeah, I'm a tight what, thinking about how vertical this Packers offense is and the man coverage that we're probably going to see from the Broncos with rushing 5 pretty often because, man, let's hope those boxing gloves come in handy here for Riley Moss and his practice and everything because the Packers are going to test him vertically, no doubt. But let's say hello to some folks in the chat as we get into one of the most anticipated games for the Broncos and their least important game left on the schedule, but the one I'm the most excited about on the whole, I think, just because I think the Packers are very good. Volatile. Like if you look at their losses this year, now granted, maybe that Panthers one isn't as horrible in hindsight, but volatile team, but really, really talented. First, we got a super chat coming in here. Denver Luke says, good morning, Nick and Eric. It's just for the future. ERICK. So appreciate that. Any update on Bryant? Eric, you and I have differing sources on this one. I don't want to spread too much out here, but I've heard from somebody who said that Bryant himself said that he's going to be out. So in communication with Pat Bryant himself. So again, I'm not the breaking news individual. I'm here to analyze the games, but I will hear some stuff. And I trust this person from where they work and how they're connected. So I do expect Pat Bryant to be out this week, which is going to be a major bummer, but not as big as the potential player that's going to be out for the Packers. And that's not a disrespect to Bryant, who's been playing really good ball.
Yeah, basically, it's the Broncos internally. They haven't made that, from what I understand. They haven't made that distinction yet. It looks like he's going to be out. He hasn't practiced the last couple days. They believe he is going to be out. They just haven't made that determination yet. That will happen today. As they do every single week, they always wait for it. I mean, even if you go back to last week for the Raiders game, the expectation going into Friday was Pat Bryant would not be playing against the Raiders. And he ended up being able to move well enough and all that on Friday, and was able to play in the game and had a pretty decent impact. But we did see a little bit more of other receivers kind of stepping in, a lot more little Jordan Humphrey, and part of that might have been because of Pat Bryant and dealing with this hamstring injury that he's been dealing with for, I think this is week 4 now, maybe week 3. But I wouldn't expect him to play. It's just the Broncos internally haven't made that distinction yet. That'll come today, but all likelihood he won't be playing in this one.
Which will be a major bummer, but not a major bummer is Denver Luke coming in with the super chat. We appreciate you. We also got Lando Lee coming in with the thumbs up over on Facebook. Just a little time to, juice ourselves up a bit. Make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, sharing, as that ticker says there underneath, over on YouTube, finding us on X, Twitter, whatever it is, Facebook. And let's have a good time on after the show as well. I'm busy with my new job, but I still find, a few times walking between meetings and whatnot to tweet Broncos. And we're starting to get into NFL draft time as well and free agency thoughts. Shout out to everybody who started Kyle Pitts last night, myself included, in one of my 2 leagues that I'm in. So that was really nice. And Kyle Pitts, we'll see what happens, Eric, but there's not going to be many interesting second contract free agents, it seems like. I know that because he's a tight end, maybe the Falcons do end up tagging him, moving on from Kirk Cousins and tagging him. He's still, I saw a stat, he is still at his age point. If he was Travis Kelce at his age has still not even caught an NFL pass yet. So like tight ends take some time. And if, I don't know, Kyle Pitts is weird. It would depend on like his mental makeup, but like he is so unique still that if he was available, I'd be very curious in his market. I know I'm typically, your tight end needs to be a good enough blocker that if they aren't, they need to be a good enough pass catcher that they can like moonlight as a wide receiver. Kyle Pitts might be that guy, actually. Like, I know that they don't use him in line so much, but if you wanted to be like a pseudo 12 personnel as an 11 personnel team with Pitts, and how much Broncos do check down stuff, and Bo Nix specifically home run to check down, he'd be interesting. And I really trust Sean Payton. I mean, I'm totally Sean Payton build at this point, Eric.
Yeah, my worry is, I'm with you. I wouldn't mind Denver looking his way, but I think that his market's one to watch because he wasn't trending in the right direction for from what I recall from most of the season. I don't pay super close attention to the Falcons, but I do know for a fact it was not trending in the right direction heading into the season. That's part of the reason why he's projected to be a free agent after the season. There's been a few rumors going around through the grapevine that the Falcons have interest in getting an extension done sooner rather than later, but it doesn't seem like that's going to actually happen. So we'll be interested in seeing it. But my fear is, if the Broncos, I do think the Broncos are going to be aggressive in looking for a tight end. I think Evan Ingram is going to keep them from looking at Kyle Pitts in particular, even though it shouldn't. Kyle Pitts is, they're of similar makeup in terms of being more wide receiver than, true tight end. And I think Denver's going to be really focused on trying to get that inline tight end, upgrading over, Adam Trotman and Nate Adkins, and getting that guy who can help bring that blocking element to it, which isn't really Kyle Pitts' game. He does bring more than enough as a receiver, and he just has been inconsistent with it to make up for the lack of blocking, which is one reason why I think that Evan Ingram shouldn't keep you from looking at Kyle Pitts. But his market is one that I'm definitely going to be interested in seeing how it plays out when, free agency does come around.
Best tight end game since Shannon Sharpe in 1996, 160 something yards, 3 touchdowns. And it seems like Todd Bowles might be out in Tampa. I don't know what you're following that. He had a post-game press conference where he threw his players under the bus, and they've been so good there in Tampa, like relatively. I guess the NFC South is terrible, but yeah. And for me, Kyle Pitts is such a unique weapon that he kind of fits in. It's always scary, right? The positionless football, but like if we didn't have Sean Payton, I'd be like, no way. But with Sean Payton, I'm like, if you want him, I want him. Like I'm again fully Sean Payton pilled. I think he does. He's the absolute worst in coach speak, and I don't take a lot of what he says at face value sometimes in the press conferences. But as far as team building and offensive design, I don't know other than Sean McVay, I don't know if there's anybody who's like definitively better than him right now. I truly believe that. Spaceman 1943Z. I don't recognize this name, but God bless you. Good morning. Good to see you over on YouTube. He says, I think the jump the offense has made is bigger than the fall and the defense has made. Again, sample size. The thing that is hard about that to me, Spaceman, is that unless you are like a top 8 unit on both sides of the ball, you need one of your either offense or defense to be like elite. And while the offense is, I think I'm with you, the offense has jumped more. I think it's probably more valuable in a single game setting in the playoffs to have like that number one unit in the league. So like, while I'm with you that I think the overall, let's say that the defense has gone from 3rd to 8 and the offense has gone from 20th to 13th. I think that let's even say it's more, let's say 3rd to 6th. Like, I think that hurts your team overall. Like, you need one of the units to be special, typically for a Super Bowl team. And I don't think the defense is playing at special right now. Now that can change. The Broncos are still, if you take away turnovers and you're like sliders and look at the EPA per play, they're still the number 1 defense in the NFL without takeaways. They need to start fricking taking the ball away, Eric. Oh my God, I'm going to start frothing at the mouth. And maybe this is the week we start the trend. They tend to happen in bunches. And I'm hoping that faucet can be turned on.
Yeah, and it's not like the opportunities haven't been there, right? I mean, that's part of what's so frustrating with this defense when it comes to takeaways. How many times have we seen the ball bounce off of one of the defenders' hands? Talanoa Hufanga in particular, he's had what feels like 37,000 dropped interceptions at this point of the season. And, in what was it, the last game, Zach Allen had one bounce off his hand, or was that the Commanders game? But he's had one bounce off his hands. Jonathan Cooper has had a few bounce off his hands. So the opportunity's been there. They've been in the right spot to get some of these takeaways. They're just not finishing the play. And I've made the joke multiple times that they need to have all these defenders working on the jugs machine, because at this point, those potential takeaways can be more harmful, as we close out the season with the fact that Denver has the 3rd toughest remaining schedule in the NFL and playoff football. Dropping those interceptions can be more harmful now than it has been for the rest of the season, just because of the quality of opponents is more rigorous, and it's more demanding of them. So Denver's got to figure something out, because they're right there, literally at their fingertips, and they just haven't been able to finish.
Yeah, it's the interceptions. Hopefully will start to come up a little bit, Eric. The thing that drives me absolutely insane is this team is getting home and hitting the quarterback in the backfield. And like, how can they never dislodge the football? Maybe like twice this year they've done that. I don't know if they've actually recovered a strip sack. I mean, somebody in the chat, maybe they have, maybe like week 1 or something, but they have, according to Pro Football Reference, 120 quarterback hits this season. Obviously 55 sacks leads the league. Falcons at 2nd at 48. God bless them. Another game last night, but that's considering how bad the Falcons have been at getting after the quarterback, that's unbelievable. But you think they'd have some strip sacks out here. And I know they're a little bit smaller, but like, God, scoop the ball, find the ball. It just doesn't make sense with how often they are hitting the quarterback, how few times they are dislodging that football.
Yeah, it's frustrating. And I was looking up yesterday, and if I remember right, I saw somewhere where they have like, they're in the bottom like 5 in strip sacks on the season with like 5 or 6. And I think that they had 0 recoveries on those. I'm trying to, looking through my history and trying to figure out where I found it so I can give you the exact numbers, because I don't remember exactly. But it wasn't great. And strip sacks are something that's frustrating, because it can be it's a game changer, because it's, not only does it get that sack, it gets that, the fumble, gives the opportunity for your offense to get back out on the field. And it's multiple times. And from what I can remember, I only remember like 3 strip sacks. Denver hasn't even been close to recovering them, except for maybe one against the Titans. So it's not just that they're not doing it; it's that when they do get it, they're not getting close to getting the recovery. So I don't know. For me, strip sacks are great and everything, but the missed interceptions, that's easier to sit there and highlight because of the fact that it literally is bouncing off their hands. And you want to see them obviously get the ball on the ground a little bit more with how often they're getting after the quarterback. But if they're not going to be there to get the potential recovery because of just how they're playing up front with the spacing that they're getting up front because of the different looks that they're getting, I come back to the interceptions more so than the strip sacks. Not saying you don't want to see it, but those interceptions, again, they're right there at the fingertips. The strip sacks, not so much.
It just doesn't make sense with how often they're hitting the quarterback. Like, just dice roll wise, I don't understand it. And that's something, maybe it's a coaching thing, but man, to scoop the ball out, you're seeing it from defensive backs. You're bigger defensive linemen, like linebackers, like than the defensive backs. On granted, quarterback, although the quarterback doesn't even know they're going to get hit sometimes. So I don't know. Let's hope that'll turn around here. Maybe they're just keeping that card in their back pocket. But it's really, Eric, it is really impacting my mental health right now with the Broncos' lack of turnovers. Not to make light of it or anything, but we always have, men's and women's mental health on our mind. And luckily we do have avenues to get support.
Yeah, Broncos country. It's been such a wild season, and we all know how much it's taken a toll on us mentally. In all seriousness, though, taking care of your mental health shouldn't be harder than taking care of your physical health. Think about it. If you pull a muscle or suddenly your back starts aching, you go and you see a doctor. But when it comes to finding the right therapist, suddenly it's frustrating. You're dealing with long waiting lists, or you have to confront huge out-of-pocket costs. Any one of these factors can stop people from getting the help that they need.
That's where Rula comes in. Rula makes it simple, affordable, and fast. They work with most major insurance plans, and the average session copay is just $15. $15. That's basically the cost of lunch, but instead of a sandwich, you're investing in your own headspace.
And with Rula, you're not just matched with a therapist and left to figure it out. They check in, make sure you're actually making progress. Every therapist on the platform is licensed, vetted, and picked for their expertise, so you know you're talking to someone legit, not just whoever happens to be available.
Getting started couldn't be easier. You answer a few quick questions about what matters to you, and Rula connects you with an in-network provider who actually fits your needs. You pick the time, and you could be talking with the therapist as soon as the next day. No weeks of waiting, no endless back and forth. Bottom line, if you've been putting this off, Rula takes away the excuses. Simple, affordable, and actually built to help you get better.
And thousands of people have already used Rula to finally get the care that they need. Don't keep putting it off. Go to Rula.com/mile high and get started today. That's RULA.com/mile high. Take the first step, get connected, and take control of your mental health.
Fantastic, fantastic. You guys in the chat, I don't know if the chat is down or anything, but it's pretty slow in there. We got likes and views and stuff, but say hello. Come in. If you have any questions about the Broncos or Packers, then let's get it going. Cly getting in here. Good to see you, Kyle. I keep doing this. I'm stupid. You changed your picture, too. I even switched around the L, so don't comment again. Cycle. No, I remember. Kyle, good to see you. Says if Josh Jacobs doesn't play, we get the dub. I mean, that is huge for the Broncos in this one. He's missed 2 practices with a knee injury. The thing is, with this Packers game, they have a pretty good backup running back as well. Actually, the Broncos had him on their practice squad or preseason roster, I believe, Eric. They picked, I think they took Jaleel McLaughlin over him, but they had him on the roster at some point. And he's been a solid out there, a little bit of different runner, pretty upright, but a solid slasher. And yeah, with the Packers playing Broncos, it's way more important for them to have him healthy for that Bears game at Soldier Field next week than in this Denver game. Now, granted, every game matters for the standings, but Packers are trying to host a playoff game, right? And it's more important for them to win that Bears game than this Broncos game. So we'll see what happens with Jacobs in this one. Obviously, I don't need to rehash. Jacobs has been an absolute Bronco killer during his time. Also, there's a little bit, I wouldn't say bad blood, but narrative-wise, Broncos went after him pretty hard in the lead up to the 2024 season. I think it was NBC Sports reported on it, and Jacobs even had a quote like, the reason he picked the Packers is because he wanted to go to a contender, which mean, the Broncos coming off the Russell Wilson release, rookie quarterback. You don't know what's going to happen here. So I don't like fault him for that in any way, but maybe the team will, I don't know. But no, if Josh Jacobs doesn't play, that's huge for the Broncos. He's really solid as a check down option out of the backfield for them. He's a good blitz picker upper. He's an innings eater as well for them on the ground. So that changes the dynamic a lot and puts so much onus on Jordan Love to play at an MVP level. And with this Broncos defense, I know the Packers have been killing man, especially these last 4 weeks. And Jordan Love has the most air yards in football, I think this season in general, but especially the last 4 weeks. If you don't have that check down option who can, keep you on schedule both in the pass and run, with this Broncos pass rush, a pretty hard game for Jordan Love. Now, granted, again, MVP conversation for a reason. He can do it, but that really tips the scales for the Broncos, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Jacobs, if you just looked at his career against the Broncos, he'd have the conversation for greatest running back of all time. That's just how good he's been when it comes to the Broncos. And then, with the comments that he made, alluding to when the Broncos pursuing him about how he didn't think they were going to go anywhere, so he wanted to go to a contender. And there's definitely some bad blood there, and the Broncos want to show that they made a mistake. I know that they are hoping he plays because they want to send a message, and they very prideful and they want to take on the best. As a fan, I'm fearful of him playing because of what he's done historically against the Broncos, even when he's been banged up. There's been one of the seasons with the Raiders, he didn't practice all week and went and played in the game, and I think that was one of the times that he ran for over 100 yards on this defense and just wore them down. So I'm not looking forward to it. As for Emmanuel Wilson, he's fine as a backup. He does leave yards on the field quite a bit, so some vision issues there. He is one of those guys that the Broncos, they did bring him in after the 2023 draft, had him on their offseason roster for a little while, and parted ways with him, and he's bounced around and has had some decent impact as a situational runner. And Green Bay's finally given him the chance to be that second guy, and he's doing all things considered, and he's doing well with it. So still a threat, but he isn't the same level of threat. And when he has had to play more, it hasn't been as often. He only has like 88 rushing attempts, and I'm not sure of the total snap count, but when he is on the field, the whole offense is far less efficient, which makes sense with how good Josh Jacobs is.
Yeah. Oh, man, he's really good. The one thing, so the Packers, obviously, Tucker Kraft out for the season. He was playing like a top 3 tight end in football, arguably number 1 because of his blocking. Now, granted, can't take away for what Trey McBride is doing out there in Arizona, but he's a little bit more of a Travis Kelce, detached type, where Tucker, I don't know if we have I'll just say, kicks ass. Like, I don't know if we get demonetized for saying ass on here. So I already said it, so I'll say it again, but he kicks ass in line. Did it San Diego, SDST, so South Dakota State, out there for the Jackrabbits as well. And he's out, obviously, and that really changes the Packers' offense. But they do get Reed back, who is a very interesting wide receiver weapon. They are targeting him a lot. So this Packers offense has been very vertical in what they're trying to do with Christian Watson. Well, obviously, he's kind of like a hyped up, souped up Troy Franklin, where like he gets vertical, and some of the deep stuff is like, oh my gosh, you're so athletic and much bigger. Like, that's why I say souped up. He's built compared to Franklin, who's a little bit of a bean, string bean to some extent. But the ball skills, he has some issues with tracking the football and fighting the football at the catch point. But man, he gets vertical and he's tough down the field. They also have Wicks, who's been playing pretty good football, and Romeo Dobbs as well. Was that the Carson Strong wide receiver on the other end? Was he the Nevada guy? Yeah. So, and he's the one who has the Guardian cap, right? Yes. One of them wears the Guardian cap. Regardless, they're kind of built like the Broncos, where they have a bunch of like number 2, 3 wide receivers. But Reed he's a little different than those guys because of what he can do underneath, horizontally, and after the catch. And with how the Broncos have been getting targeted as of late, seeing this man coverage, but there's options underneath, especially if obviously Tucker's out, but especially if Jacobs is out. I think Reed is the key in this game for this Packers offense. And I don't know if the Broncos necessarily want to do anything to like scheme him out per se. I think it's more important for them to limit the deep balls vertically to those other wide receivers. But this could be a game, like if you do daily fantasy or whatever, like Reed could be a pretty good option. And as good as like we like Jaquan McMillan, the Broncos like statistically have struggled. EPA per dropback, like targeting the slot, they're a bottom 10 defense in football this season. Now some of that's just the type of defense that you play because you're rushing 5, playing a lot of man coverage. You don't have as much help, so the yards after catch options are there. But Reed is one I think he's going to have a big game. And if he doesn't, the Denver wins this one, I think, unless Bo Nix and the offense completely implode. But that's the area of the string I'm most concerned about for this Broncos defense, other than Jordan Love and Toyotathon.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a little bit of question of some rust still when watching over the Bears game, which was Reed's first game back. There was definitely still rust. He wasn't moving quite as efficient or clean as you like to see from a receiver, especially out of the slot. And when he is out there on the field, he is one of the better slot receivers in the NFL. Not one of the best, but one of the better. And it's definitely a tough matchup for McMillan. But what's concerning to me with this receiver room isn't just getting him back. It's just the stable that they have of it, because they can keep rotating their wide receivers because they're 5 deep, a little bit similar to Denver. They don't really have that top guy established yet. And they just are basically kind of like a bunch of number 2, 3s, and 4s that are just rotated out, that they make it work. Again, very similar to Denver. And with the Broncos issues that they've, the cracks that have started to show in their coverage unit with their corners and their play over the recent weeks, that's very concerning. You have Matthew Golden, who's done well attacking vertically. You talking about the vertical game. He has a few drops on it. That's been an issue for him. Christian Watson, drops have been an issue, but he doesn't have any this year. He's definitely put in the work. He's cleaned that up, and he's also 6'4" and 210 pounds with the ability to take the top off defense, and he can make some very acrobatic catches. You have Romeo Dobbs, who's just a reliable receiver for them. And then you have Dontavian Wicks, who's a little bit less reliable. Drops have been an issue for him. Route running's been an issue with him. He is the one receiver that when watching over the Packers offense, he's that one receiver that doesn't worry me too much with it. I mean, he can still make plays, don't get me wrong, but he's just he's just another guy type player for them that's had to step up because of Reed's injury. But it's concerning with it, and I'm very curious to see how the Broncos deploy, their corners, and Jahdae Barron in particular, who they've used as that tight end eraser, how they deploy him against this Packers offense, where, without Tucker Kraft, the rest of the tight ends haven't been that much of a threat within this offense. Luke Musgrave has been solid. Denver really wanted him before the trade deadline, but Tucker Kraft had to go get hurt. And so I'm curious, without that, Tucker Kraft level threat, how do they employ Barron? Do they use him more on receivers and really focus on taking the receivers out of the game and try to force Jordan Love to go to running backs or tight ends to move the ball?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. And we've talked this whole time on the defensive side of the ball. Like we talked about, Eric, I mentioned Jordan Love is number 1, I think, in the NFL in dropback, EPA per dropback against man coverage. Now, granted, haven't played Broncos level man coverage cornerbacks, especially these last 4 weeks, like what you've seen from Detroit and the Bears. Like probably every single one of the Broncos cornerbacks would start over any of those guys. Maybe Jalen Johnson with the Bears over Riley Moss, but we're like splitting hairs. Like the Broncos personnel for playing man coverage is different. And also the pass rush is different up front as well. And if you take Josh Jacobs out of the equation, it changes even more. And where I really like this, it's not just necessarily the cornerbacks, but Packers offensive line is okay. Like they're not terrible. They're okay. Like I really love Elton Jenkins. Is he hurt? I can't even remember.
He's out. He's not playing in this game. He's on injured reserve.
Okay. I loved him coming out of the draft. Kind of one of those sliding door things where Broncos took Dalton Reisner instead. I think Elton Jenkins was still available. They took Reisner over him. They're like right next to each other in the draft. It might have even been the sandwich pick between Reisner and Locke, but I digress. The Broncos pass rush and defensive line in general should be a lot better. I'm really hoping the Broncos secondary rushers in this one, the depth guys step up a bit more. It feels like we've lost a little bit of punch from Jonah Ellis and Tillman here these last few weeks, which is, they are second string for a reason, but it'd be nice to get them, have a big game. And Packers, I think from watching them, their offensive line has solidified a little bit because they plugged in that rookie at right guard. Belton, is that the name?
Anthony Belton, yeah.
Anthony Belton. NC State, maybe? Is that the NC State one? I can't remember. Packers took one of those depth guys, and then so did the Bears. Bears took the one out of BC with the Italian last name, starts with an O. But maybe the Broncos will be in that field this season looking for a guard tackle swing. It's probably about time for something like that. But I digress. Broncos defensive line, pass rush, like, let's get it. Let's get after it. Will be interesting to see if they can live up to it, because they've been a little bit, I guess I can't really say they were down. They sent Geno Smith out of the game, right? But that Washington game still sits in my mouth a little bit.
Yeah.
That's what she said.
This Packers offensive line is solid because of what they do in the running game. And pass protection. They're not good. Even with Anthony Belton, ever since he came in, that's helped stabilize the unit in the run blocking, but he's been a almost liability. He's allowing a pressure like once every 5 snaps, like pass protection snaps. It is terrible. And then you have Aaron Banks, who's coming back from an injury. You have Sean Ryan, who's their center, who's working back from an injury. He's their backup there. Both of them have not been great. Zach Tom, he's been fine as a pass protecting right tackle, but he's definitely had his moments. And the big thing with him is, with where he struggles at, Jonathan Cooper should be able to do well against him. And then Rasheed Walker has been bottom 10 left tackle in the NFL, and it's just has really been terrible. He just doesn't have much fluidity with his kick slide, which Nick Benito coming in with how much he likes to short press that arc and, explode off the snap, that can give some fits there. So I think the Broncos, in terms of pass rush, I think they have an advantage across the board, which, as you said, does change how they're playing man coverage. You highlighted Jordan Love and what he's done against man coverage, where the Broncos are top 5 in most, pass coverage stats in man coverage, whereas the rest of the teams that the Bears have played, or the Packers have played, have been bottom 10 at best. Most of them have been bottom 5. So it's definitely been a concern. And obviously what Jordan Love did against them obviously helps play into their rankings. But they, even excluding the Packers games, they're still bottom 10. I think one of them moves that to just bottom 12, just outside of the bottom 10.
The one thing I do want to ask you, Eric, you're Vance Joseph. Do you change tendencies at all in this one? Do you play a little bit more zone because of that, or do you just say this is what we do well?
The Broncos have been playing a little bit more zone ever since week 9. I think it was just before the Raiders game, the week before. They kind of started going to a little bit more zone, whereas they were, prior to that point, they were far and away than, I think, number 2 in terms of man coverage. They now sit number 3 over it, so they've definitely dropped a little bit. But if you limit it down to, it's either after the week 9 game or after the week 10 game. If you limit it down to that, their man coverage is more middle of the pack. I think they're 14th in man coverage rate. They're doing a little bit more zone. I wonder how much of that, though, was Patrick Surtain. It lines up with when he left out, or when he left the game. But Vance Joseph also talked about it, how they've been doing, match coverage a lot, and they've been going to a match zone off of it. And he's talked about that a lot. And it's pretty easy to see when you get match zone out of it. It is often regarded as a man coverage look, even though it's not. And that's something, when he talked about it, he said that's their bread and butter. So maybe they're doing match zone a lot more this season, and it's just looking a lot like it's man coverage. But I digress. This is definitely one where I think that Vance Joseph should be a little bit more even with what he's calling in coverages, and a little bit more even with what he's doing up front. And one thing that I definitely hope for, I hope that when he does give his blitz look, I hope Vance Joseph's come up with a different look besides just, mugging the A gaps with those linebackers that not necessarily teams are figuring out, but has kind of lost the threat a little bit over recent weeks, as teams just aren't concerned, because if they blitz them, then they're just going to hit them behind it. If they drop back, well, then the quarterbacks have been looking elsewhere. So it's not as dangerous for opposing quarterbacks. So I hope Vance Joseph's come up with something a little bit different up front as well to help create some confusion with Jordan Love.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, no doubt. And I'm really happy Tucker Kraft is out in this one. Things that scare me about a lot of teams is Broncos. I mean, they've done well against tight ends, but I think ones that are in line where you have to match up a little bit more with linebacker and run fits concern me some for this Broncos team. And then also the check downs to a Josh Jacobs type. So if Jacobs is out, man, I feel pretty good. Do want to say hello to some more folks in the chat. Eric and I are just vibing right now, back off and forth of each other. We don't want to ignore you guys. So thank you so much. Drop a comment and click the thumbs up, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Perry West, good to see you. Talking probably about, I don't know if you're talking about Jacobs here or Pat Bryant.
Bryant, I'm pretty sure.
Bryant, yeah, it's just like the Packers. This game is really important for the Broncos in terms of seeding, but it's their least important game due to head-to-head matchups. So I'm hoping that Denver does get the win, but if there's any of them, it's this NFC one. So we'll see what happens. And he says probably let him heal up. We'll see. Mock draft Friday. Denver Luke, I love you. I don't think we're going to have time today. There's just too much juicy stuff with this Packer game going on here. But maybe at some point, I don't know. Because the Broncos are so good and been so busy with the new job and move, I feel like I'm behind the 8 ball. Like I can tell you about the top 50 guys right now, but once you're getting to like round 3, I'm like, I don't even know who's declaring yet, right? I do know it's a down season, and I know some of the top guys, but we'll see. I am really bummed that Chris Bell tore his Achilles. I always get Achilles and ACL mixed up, but Louisville wide receiver, really talented, 6'1", 220, yak monster, was awesome, and then kind of slowed down a little bit at the end of the season, but he's interesting. But I don't think so today. Kyle, God freaking damn it, Kyle. God damn it, Kyle. Kyle comes in, says, Kate Otten screams Denver. Yeah, he's one of the 4 right now. I think I even maybe had a 5th one too, but Njoku, Goddard, I really love Bellinger. I think he could be, for what he is, like, I think he's a good, like a second guy who can detach and like a seek and destroy blocker as well. Like, I think he'd be a really good player to have, useful. And then also you have Kate Otten, who's, I don't know how much you're improving the blocking with Kate Otten, but he gives you a pretty consistent chain mover over the middle of the field. So, he's good. Second contract too. So that's kind of what you like. There's options for the Broncos there. I think they're probably going to dabble more so in the Goddard Njoku realm, but that's just me. We got Spaceman also. Denver's depth isn't bad. Is this year we move up in the draft? It always depends on what you're talking about moving up. Maybe there's a specific player they really like. I know somebody in here talked about wanting Kenyon Sadiq. Maybe he's falls to like 16. And if you're only moving up, let's say your first and second round pick to go get him, especially if you're talking about compensatory picks coming down the tracks for Vance Joseph, and also you have the 2 4ths and everything. Maybe that's something you talk about. I always think it's a little risky to move up for non-premium positions just because they have to be so good to be worth those 2 rookie contracts. Like, you have a wider scope of what's allowable return on investment. If it's a defensive lineman, if it's an offensive lineman, if it's a wide receiver, like how many tight ends are actually needle movers, right? Like, it's kind of like linebacker. There's a lot of like serviceable guys, but like the needle movers are very valuable, but hard to get and hard to identify. And there's no guarantee in the draft. I'd rather use those 2 picks and trade for a sure thing at that position to know I'm getting a needle mover than the risk with Sadiq personally, even though he's a good player. It's just, it's the risk for me. I'm conservative in that regard.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of moving up period in the draft. I do think that this is a year where we're going to hear Denver linked to moving up for a couple players in particular, and we're going to hear it a lot, especially after Ashton Genty and all the rumors that came out about him, and Denver being very aggressive and trying to move up for him.
Love is better than Genty. I think Love's a better player than Genty. I'm sorry.
I don't disagree with you. And Love is one of those players where I fully expect a lot of rumors to come out. And I've seen some, comments about, RJ Harvey. Well, and Sean Payton's been very aggressive before in making sure he has those 2 running backs in his system, or 3. Yeah. But going back for it through his time, it's been those top 2. That's where he's really had that big investment in. But 3 of them, he doesn't shy away from investing at running back. I mean, it makes sense. He's a guy who on offense, he hasn't shied away from investing in the lesser valued positions time and time again. Offensive line, especially the interior. He's made heavy investments throughout his head coaching career on the interior of the offensive line. Tight ends, he's invested a lot in tight ends over the course of his career. Running backs, not so much wide receiver though. So it's one of those things where he doesn't seem to value wide receivers as much as he does some of these other positions for his offense. And part of that could be, the ego or the arrogance, whatever way you want to put it, in his ability as a play caller to get a lot out of wide receivers, which he's done here in Denver. But I could see Denver, talking about rumors for trading up for a player. I could see wide receiver being one of them. Cardinal Tate out of Ohio State in particular, depending on where he falls. I could see
He's going to go
Denver.
like top 8. I don't think there's any way they can get him in this class. But
I don't disagree, but I'm just saying there's rumors and we never know.
I'm looking at London and Boston. Those are the two that I think are feasible. Lemon in Boston. I'd love the trade for Drake London. But Lemon or Boston are the two that I think you're talking about going from 15 to 25.
Yeah. And I mean, we can look at, last year as an example a little bit. One of the players that Denver was linked with trading up for a lot, Tyler Warren, but he was viewed as, he's for sure a top 10 guy. Well, he doesn't. He's not even the first tight end taken. And then, there was a lot of Colson Loveland talk. He went 10. Granted, there is a difference between picking 20th and where Denver's currently, slated to be picking, which is somewhere at the very least, the mid 20s. So there's a big difference there. But the point is that it's still very early. A lot of things can happen between now and the draft. So, I mean, while I don't expect Cardinal Tate to be there, we never know. But he's one that either way, I expect Denver to be linked heavily with possibly trading up for him. Jeremiah Love, he's another one I expect Denver to be heavily linked for trading up with. There's a couple other players, but I could see Denver being very aggressive this offseason to add offensive weapons, both in free agency and the draft.
Will be definitely interesting. I could see them make a trade for a veteran too. I think that I don't think we should put to bed the Waddle talk. Our guy Zan B21 on Twitter, who's got some, he tends to be a little bit prophetic sometimes with his stuff, and he's been really manifesting the Broncos making a big splash at wide receiver, talking about like Justin Jefferson, even which a contract's hard to do, but even Schefter was like, I would have said it was unfathomable for Parsons to be traded before it happened. So you never know. Teams are a little bit more willing to eat dead cap than they used to be. We'll see. We got Warden coming in. Good to see you. Hello. Appreciate you. Joseph's talking about history. No matter what team Josh Jacobs on, he owns us. Hate to say it, but he scares me. He should scare you. He's been pretty good. He hasn't had like explosive run games, but as an overall weapon, he's been good. And he's just such a doubles hitter, right? Like, not many home runs, but man, he is hitting it off the wall constantly. Like he gets on base a lot and he hits a lot of doubles. Useful player. He'd be so great to have next to RJ Harvey. Like if I could clone him and have him here, it's kind of what you had from Dobbins, although Josh Jacobs is obviously durability is much better, but a little better hands out of the backfield than Dobbins. But yeah, it's he's definitely somebody that Sean Payton, I don't know if you remember, even before he was hired as a Broncos coach, he was talking about how much he loves Josh Jacobs when he's working for Fox. Brian Dunn's in the house. Good morning, Nick, Eric, and fellow Broncos countrymen and country babes. What are you trying to say, Brian? I could be both here. Appreciate you coming in. We got Ernie Mays, go Broncos country only. Hello to you. Denver Luke saying he thinks the Broncos win 29-10. That would be awesome. I went 23-20 in my prediction to Chad. I wish I thought about this after I sent it to him. I should have just copied the Super Bowl 32 score, which was 31-24. I can't imagine that many points, but it's going to be like 65 here and sunny in Denver. So we'll see. I know it's like -10 wind chill or something in Green Bay. So very happy Denver's at home for this one. Lambeau's beautiful. If you guys have ever had a chance to get out there, I unfortunately was at the 2011 game where Aaron Rodgers had 5 total touchdowns and threw for like 400 yards. It was unbelievable to watch. And that was the year I think the Packers went 15-1. They were awesome, and watching Rodgers was unbelievable. I did see Von Miller get 2 sacks in that game, so that was cool. But Lambeau's a great time. Beautiful area, really awesome Hall of Fame if you get a chance to get out there. Brian asked, where did Summit go off to? He heard the little guy getting up, and that means breakfast time, and that means there's vacuum duty to be done with breakfast going on. So Roy's in the house. Good to see you, Roy. Good morning, Nick and Eric. It's going to be a tough one Sunday. Hate to say it. I think it'll be a close loss. Could be a close loss. I mean, Vegas obviously picking the Broncos to lose this one. Packers are very good, and we have not a lot of time left talking about the Broncos offense. I picked this up. I don't want to take full credit for it, Eric. I was listening to Football 301. I know a lot of people, fangs out, pitchforks out, talking about anybody else talking about the Broncos because they disrespect us. But Nate Tice does a good job covering them, even though he's a little bit hesitant to crown Bo Nix. It's not like the outright hate that you get from the Athletic Football Podcast and Derek Klassen, who's just like, outright negative fully about Bo Nix. Has a retching every time that you have to talk about the Broncos offense. I think Tice is fair, even if he says stuff that you don't want to hear all the time. I think he's one of the better ones right now, honestly. He does good work. But anyway, him and Charles McDonald talked about this game, and Charles McDonald had a really interesting tidbit about this Packers defense. And Charles picked the Broncos to win this one. He said that the Packers defense this season, while they're top 8, top 10 in a lot of metrics, they are far and away number 1 in the NFL in a lot of their efficiency stats on the first 2 drives of the game, but then bottom 5 or 8 in all drives after that. The Broncos are the opposite, are kind of line up with that. The Broncos offense, last week, obviously good first drive, but that was their first opening drive touchdown since week 2. They've really struggled the first 2 drives out of the gate, and they are top 5 in efficiency, EPA, in drives after the first 2. So Broncos got to weather the storm early. Hopefully the defense can come out and play hot and not give up some early points. But this Packers team has struggled to adjust, seemingly. They do good stuff defensively, obviously. They do a lot of, I think they're top 5, top 8 in zone coverage. They're one of the best yards after catch allowed defenses in NFL history. And obviously they have Micah Parsons, top 3 defensive player in football. I'm always going to wait towards pass rushers, guys. Sorry, but definitely one of the top 3 edge rushers and therefore one of the top 3 defensive players. And really a lot of good blitzing, a lot of green dog stuff that they do as well to hide those rushers. So really interesting tidbit, and that's a tip of the cap. As far as the Broncos' advantage here, Packers defense is good, but man, it is nice to have Sean Payton. It's always going to come back to Sean Payton. I think that's going to be my new thing. I'm just going to give me a Sean Payton jersey. He's the man.
And one thing with this defense too is that they really lost their only consistent guy up front in on the interior defensive line with Wyatt. He's out.
Yeah.
And Micah Parsons, he's a threat, and they love to move him around. But Rashawn Gary, and this is going to be a curse, so knock on wood. But Rashawn Gary's has not been good since week 7, I think is what it is. He's actually been one of the worst pass rushers since week 7 when you look at the efficiency of it. And then overall, I think the speed of this defense is what's concerning, because you touch on it. They like to disguise what they're doing a lot, and part of the reason why they can do that is because just how fast they are defensively. They don't have to get people out of position. But what's even more concerning, and I've touched on this before, we're seeing a lot of teams this year, not defenses, obviously, not give away what they're doing based off of motion. And what they're doing is wide receiver motions, and then you have the corner follow, and that's typically an indicator of man. And then the defense drops into zone. They're using that motion to, add an extra element of disguise to it by making the quarterback think one thing when it's another. And the Packers have like the 3rd highest rate of doing that this year, of showing man pre-snap to motion and then dropping to zone, or vice versa. And that is one area where Bo Nix has struggled. So this is one of those games where Bo Nix has to be on point, especially, again, going back to the pre-snap reads in general, even when without motion, with how well they disguise their blitzes, how well they disguise what they're doing. He's got to be on point, and he's been inconsistent with those pre-snap reads. Even over the last few weeks when he's been better, it's still been inconsistent. So a lot's going to fall on him and what he's reading pre-snap. One thing that I do really like about, this matchup here is I think the Packers corners are a little bit overrated. Not saying they're bad, but they've allowed 6 total touchdowns. They've only had 1 interception, but Nixon has been an absolute ball hawk with breaking up passes. He has like 16 passes defensed already this season. He's been great in that aspect. Valentine, their other starting corner, he has been one of the best corners in man coverage, but he's been one of the worst in zone. And he's allowing like 31.8% of targets in man coverage to be caught for 4.0 yard average. He's been absolutely phenomenal, but when you flip it over to zone coverage, he's allowing like almost 90% catch rate for like 15 or 16 yards per average. Javon Bullard, he's their nickel corner. He's been one of the better nickels this season. So they have some weaknesses outside, but you got to be careful with what you're doing pre-snap. And obviously the biggest threat for this offense in general, not Micah Parsons. He's the biggest threat as a pass rusher, but there's some issues there as a run defender. Quay Walker and Edgerrin Cooper. They are one of the better duos in the NFL, and they are probably the fastest and quickest linebacker duo in the NFL. How quickly they move, how quickly they read, that just takes away so much for opposing offenses.
I am completely with you on that one. And it's really tough for the Broncos because Bo Nix and a lot of the stuff is moving pocket checkdowns. And the Broncos last week, they were able to be so efficient on offense because I think they had like 60, 70 yards after contact, whether it be running back or the wide receiver. You're not getting that from this Packers team. Evan Williams is one of the best tackling defensive backs in football. And also you got the two linebackers as well. So, and also then you got Parsons chasing him down from behind. So go
On
ahead.
that, 8.7% missed tackle rate by the Packers defense, which is the lowest in the NFL, and they're allowing the 5th lowest yardage off of missed tackles in the NFL. So just to highlight your point about not picking up yards of the catch and the tackles.
And I'm really curious to see what the Broncos do to try to protect Bo Nix. I mean, Bo Nix has been playing better football, but I'm still going to call a spade to somewhat. Like a lot of it is Sean Payton giving him easy buttons, which is good. Like this, you'd want if you could choose to have your offensive coordinator make it easier for your quarterback, wouldn't you? Like that's a good thing. But it does at some point, push comes to the shove. You have to win the drop back pass game. You have to hit those intermediate hole shots. And this is one where the Packers, you're going to have to do that. You're not going to be able to play home run to check down and live off of yak. I don't think the Broncos weapons are necessarily good enough to do that style of offense in general. You know, it's not like the Eagles where they're living that style, but you also have Barkley, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert, right? And the offensive line. Like if you have those guys around your quarterback, sure. Like his quarterback limitations, whatever. Like you can, with the defense on the other side, you can probably do that. This is going to be a huge measuring stick for a game for Bo Nix. And it's not going to be the end of the world if he doesn't, play a great game, or if the Broncos lose and Bo Nix doesn't look good. Second year quarterback, tough game for the Broncos, and Broncos are bottom 10 in terms of their weaponry around the quarterback. But man, you're going to have to be able to run at the Packers. The duo, I think, is going to be a big one. You talked about their defensive line. While they're fast sideline to sideline, they are a little bit light. You can run at them a little bit. And also Bo Nix, hopefully you can't hear the kid screaming in the background. Sounds like he's being a real you-know-what this morning, so that's great. But you're going to have to be able to hit those intermediate hole shots for the Broncos. It cannot be like last week where obviously, I don't know if you saw the conversation on Twitter and whatnot about people disparaging the Broncos offense when they were in like 96th percentile in success rate. Like that's good that they had that game against the Raiders. I don't think you can play that style and succeed against the Packers, especially the Packers offense on the other side. So huge Bo Nix game. I'm hoping it doesn't have to be a huge Bo Nix game because the Broncos find efficiency on the ground.
Yeah. And, part of that, we talk about it a lot, is they can't shoot themselves in the foot. And I'm, kind of changing topics here a little bit because I wanted to get into this. Penalties are going to be a factor in this one.
Yeah.
So Denver, they, penalties are the second most penalized team in the NFL, whereas the Packers are 21st. Big difference there. But we know who the refereeing crew is. It's Brad Rogers and his crew, who are 5th in false start penalties called this season for referee crews, and 6th in offensive holding penalties. One thing that's worth noting for this when it comes to the Packers, though, the Packers have 16 false starts, where the league high is 23rd. That's the 15th most in the NFL, but they're tied with like 8 other teams with 16 false starts. And then they have 20 holding penalties, which is 9th most. Now the Broncos have 23, so got to keep things clean there on both sides of it. But penalties are going to be a factor in this one. And talking about the Broncos offense specifically, those pre-snap penalties offensively haven't been as much of a problem over the last few weeks. So hopefully that continues, because this reffing crew, they're eagle-eyed when it comes to those pre-snap penalties. They love to throw the flag on them. So Denver's got to be careful with that one.
Oh, man, going to be a tough one for the Broncos. Eric, did I get your final score here? I said 23-20 Broncos.
I know I had Denver ended up winning just because, with what they've done this season, with how many times they pulled out the close ones, and I think this is going to be a close one. I can't go against them if I think it's going to be a close game. So I had Denver winning, and if you give me a second, I can tell you what my score was.
I think the big difference here go ahead, Eric. Sorry, I was going to.
I have it being a low-scoring one with Denver 18-13 from the Packers.
Heck yeah, gave me that Big Ten kind of grinded out game. And Broncos got an advantage in special teams, specifically in the kicking game in this one. Brandon McManus has been one of the worst kickers in the NFL. And the Broncos have Will Lutz, who's been, obviously they're not trying the 50-plus yarders that often, but from 50 in, he's been pretty much automatic for the most part. So we'll see what happens in this one. Going to be a great game. If you guys have a hookup for tickets, let me know. I'd love to go. And as the sun is coming in here and starting to shine me out a bit, it is time to get wrapped up here. So a lot of fun today. I'm really excited for the slate of games. We didn't even talk about the other games. Chargers Chiefs is going to be huge, obviously, for the Broncos. And also you got
Go Kansas City.
Giant asteroid. Let's go, baby. But no, that's terrible. But then you got the Bills at the Patriots as well. Absolutely huge game. It is kind of unfortunate that we got terrible night games for the most part. Like, I don't know if you've seen like the primetime games. It's retching. Like, I don't know why they didn't flex earlier, because like you have the Monday night game is like Miami somebody. And I know Miami's like the hottest 6-17, but like there's so many good games.
Miami and Pittsburgh, isn't it?
Yeah, who cares? I'm sorry. Like, gross. I don't know that. Yeah, you're right.
I'm talking about flexing games. It's absolutely a damn shame the NFL decided to flex the Patriots and the Ravens to the late game next week instead of the Broncos and the Jaguars. Like, I think that's absolutely complete BS.
It's whatever to me, too much. I mean, it'd be fun to watch a little bit more of Drake May, because he's playing such. I had to get the reference in, Eric. Everybody drink. But I think it's the first time I said his name today. He's playing good football. He's the only other quarterback, I think, that is in the conversation of beating man coverage to the extent that Jordan Love is. And like, one, efficiency stats are so much better than your basic counting stats. But if you look at like your Jordan Love's like total yardage, and it's like, oh, he's only throwing for like 250. He's only doing it on like 20 dropbacks. Like, are you kidding me? Like, it's crazy. Matters a lot when you're doing it per dropback. But we got Keith coming in, says good morning. Shout out from Kansas. Let's freaking go, Bo. 23-21 Broncos. And also says Mile High Mims. Absolutely. Also talking about the special teams advantage. Dave Glassman coming in. Thank you so much. We're going to wrap up. Follow Eric on Twitter. Eric is at Erick Trickle. I'm at Nick Kendall, MHH. Also follow us at Mile High Huddle. We're over at Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. I've been pulling this one back up, Eric. I'm a podcast guy, getting out there between meetings or driving to and from work, walking the dog late at night, getting in a couple miles, getting the steps in. So I'm ready to climb some 14ers this summer. If you guys are listening to YouTube, Spotify, Apple, whatever, leave us a rating and comment. That helps us a heck of a lot as well. Become a member over at youtube.com and subscribe, like, and share if you're over on YouTube. The number one streaming / more people watch YouTube than anything else these days, Eric. So listening after the fact, all that good stuff is going to be best if you go join us on YouTube. So appreciate everyone. Eric, we'll see you again on Monday. Any final thoughts? Good vibes. You're not getting pounded by the rain that Washington's getting hit with right now, are you?
No, okay. It's been heavy wind. That's kind of dialed down. Now we're dealing with a cold front. It's been below 0 for the last couple of days. Fortunately, it's supposed to start warming up over the weekend. And fortunately, we're not in the area that's been hit by earthquakes ever since last Saturday, where there are now over 1,500 total earthquakes. So it's been absolutely getting rocked. Cool thing about that, completely unrelated, it's in a fault line that they just recently discovered within the last 5 years. So I think that's kind of cool.
Geology, baby. Volcanology.
I wanted to go into geology until I had a really terrible 7th grade science teacher.
That rocks. Sorry, had to get it in there. Dad jokes. Appreciate everyone. We'll see you on Monday. Should be a great game. Again, 988 suicide hotline. Tough time of year. That's I like to give that shout out during the holidays, because I know a lot of people. It's the loneliest time of year. While it's all the time where a lot of families getting together. So really important. Take care of your mental health and yourself. The world's better with you in it. Appreciate everyone. Kindness and compassion. Talking to you, Eric. No, I'm just kidding. Kindness and compassion. Go Broncos.